Hello everyone. Good evening and welcome to our latest Facebook Live event, Stay at Home 2.0. My name is Benny and you are tuning in with Focus on the Family Malaysia. This pandemic has changed our lives and perhaps also challenged us in our role as a parent. As we go through another round of MCO, us parents have to juggle again, working from home while caring for our children, besides having to deal with prolonged confinement and many uncertainties. But here's a positive note. The precious lessons we learned from our first MCO, as well as the lessons we are learning currently, can help us make our time at home a meaningful and successful one. So parents, here are some key takeaways to expect from tonight's hour-long program. We will be learning how you can work from home successfully with your children around. It's very possible. We're also going to share some practical tips on how you can make home-based learning fun and meaningful for your children. And we'll also talk about how you can process the emotions your children are experiencing during this pandemic. Yes, it's also affecting them in many ways too. And just for this program, we also have a surprise. We have prepared a very special digital resource for parents. This download will include all the helpful tips that will be shared tonight. Best part of this resource, it's free. Yay! So please stay with us till the end to find out more. Okay, to make the best of tonight's sharing, we will also be having a Q&A session. So parents, please feel free to ask your questions in the comment section below. Just ask the questions at any time and the speakers will address as many of them as possible towards the later part of the program. Okay, the moment we've been waiting for, please let me introduce our speakers for tonight. First is Joshua Leong. Josh, please wave. Joshua currently serves as principal trainer at Focus on the Family Asia. He is an international speaker and trainer and speaks on issues of youth, sexuality, marriage, and parenting. He also loves connecting with parents and young people, and he spent more than 25 years strategizing ways to better equip them for life and relationships. Joshua has been married for more than 18 years, and he has 2 daughters. Next, we have Agnes Chin. Agnes, please wave hi.
Hi.
Agnes serves in the No Apologies team with Focus on the Family Malaysia. She believes in raising her 4 children to have a healthy self-image, true to their values and beliefs, and pursue their unique life purposes. She is also passionate about bringing the message of hope to parents who are committed to live out their call to parenting. Okay, without further ado, over to you, Josh and Agnes.
Hey, thanks so much, Benny. Just thank you so much for just having both of us here today to just share, our hearts as well as sharing some practical tips that we can use, especially when we think about having to go through MCO once again. And yeah, maybe you can just tell us, in the comment box, right? How do you feel as parents having to go through this MCO once again? We call it MCO 2.0, and I believe it is really, really tough. And so we hope that through our time together and spending time together with the family, and of course the news of the extension of MCO can be very stressful on all of us. So we hope that as you're watching this, you'll be encouraged and just yes, just come together, and hopefully we can get something out of this to help us, to be encouraged to press on during this difficult time. All right. So while we have experienced our first MCO, and I've heard some parents say that second time round, I think it's a little bit more manageable, but I think it's no less stressful because we have to adjust, right? Or for some of us, we have to readjust to a different way of day-to-day living. And I think many of us have become very familiar with the term WFH, working from home. And I have previously, even previously before the lockdowns and pre-COVID time, have already some form of working from home arrangement. And I guess the only difference right now is that everybody is at home at the same time. And it's exciting and fun to have everybody at home. but I think sometimes you just want to pull your hair out, right? Because there is the challenge of, staying focused on your task at hand. Space is a constraint. I'm very very particular about the space that I have, and when everybody comes and use it together, it gets really really tough sometimes, and there is of course the emotional ups and downs, and so we really are experiencing a different way of living these days. So Agnes, maybe you can share your experience, since how has the MCO the first time been for you and right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. I could feel you, Joshua. It's very similar over my side here as well. So let me just give you a bit of context. Yeah. I've been working from home since the first MCO in Malaysia. That was, I think it was March 2020, right? Now, under the work from home policy from my company, I just need to return to the office for virtual workshops and perhaps doing some admin work. So on the work front, our team have to really very quickly make new adjustments and adapt. I think lots of us are going through, probably still going through screen fatigue, right? I mean, personally, also I've suffered from and still suffering as well, occasionally dry eyes and stiff shoulders. About the home duties, I remember that time, I think I was like living my days, as if I'm preparing for a famine, I would fill up my fridge with groceries. So I know you can't come to my house, but if you have a CCTV in my kitchen, right, and you look through it, I see, you will be seeing me cooking big pots of meat. Then I'll freeze them and I'll consume them over a few days. I tell you, Joshua, after that day, you see all the ice rolling.
I totally get what you mean.
I know.
I totally get what you mean. Yeah.
I know. So there were no more holidays to plan, right? And then also there were no more looking forward to family gatherings during the Chinese festival. So you see, I'm wearing these chunks up now because I'm looking forward. Okay, next week is Chinese New Year. So the great thing is that towards the end of last year, I get to just do some reflection, right? I said, hey, the first MCO, it was like really survival. We were really living in a survival mode. And then I was like, also there are times where I think of, am I living in the days of apocalypse? It's like, like the movie you watch, Contagion, or and with all that, right? I realized that actually some good has come out of this craziness. Our family relationship actually got closer. So we started a new ritual, which is like on every Thursday night. So after tonight's event, so we will have our family time to intentionally connect. And so, because we breathe the same space in the house, right? So I'll bump into my daughter, my son in the kitchen, in the living room and all. So we actually have good pockets of time to chat casually, just sharing, about each other's days, just small chats and all. And for these small things, right, I'm very, very thankful. Now, coming to this MCO 2.0, I must say my family and I are more prepared mentally and emotionally. Well, we know, yes, there is a need to tweak, our daily routine, the expectation to live out personal and family responsibilities. Yes, it continues. You know what? Like last month, January, we get to celebrate my son's birthday. Even my wedding anniversary as well. Simple, but it's meaningful. And another thing is that my daughter received her IGCSE result recently.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just so glad to be here at home, hearing her screams of excitement, get to hug her and congratulate her. Joshua, nothing beats this real people connection in real time. Yeah.
I think that's such a precious moment to be able to share with our children, their emotionals up and obviously their emotional downs as well. And I think some of the comments that are coming in, talking about the challenges that we face, right, during MCO, revolves a lot around our kids, like for yourself, Agnes, having to deal with everything that's going on at home. I think Michelle Chai was saying that she's got really crazy, as she said, right, with the homework, especially having to manage homework online. because he's probably struggling with a certain subject, and you ended up saying that you need to spend a few more hours with him per day. And of course, because of this difficulty with online learning, there's going to be a lot of feelings that come out along the way as well. And so I think, yeah, these are really, really difficult times, and especially for those of us who are also having to work from home, I think the question really is, can there be a clear divide, about working, when it comes to working from home, like for example, time for family, then after that, time for work, and more importantly, time for rest as well. And so at first, I thought it shouldn't be a difference because I've been very used to working from home, and having the kids around, it's just basically, the same line, and I'll do my 9 to 5, maybe extend to 6 sometimes, and then I realized when the kids are at home, I got to make sure that they have a good breakfast before they start their home-based learning, or Malaysia calls it, the Malaysian calls it the pengajaran dan pembelajaran di rumah, PDPR. And we want to make sure they have a good breakfast before they start that. Then after that, when lunch comes by, then you'll be thinking, oh no, I think I need to feed them, make sure they have a good proper recess, and suddenly the line, just becomes a blur, and there's no longer the clear line between work and children and family and rest. Has there been a clear divide for you, Agnes?
I must say that I'm actually very thankful, right? That you and I are working for focus on the family. Now here we are we are called to walk the talk, right? Helping families thrive. So yeah, so we are to focus on the family first. So there's this understanding and expectation of this work culture between bosses and our colleagues as well. But then, of course, there are expectations to the role, when it comes to meeting urgent deadlines. So on such occasions, the line can become blurry. So let's see. So they were numerous times where I overlooked the time to prepare lunch while attending a company dinner. Then when I'm about to prepare it, then my son is like, "Mom, where's the food? Not over yet for the meeting." But then my lunchtime over already. Oh, sorry. Can you munch on some snacks or whatever? That is. So he would have his lunch slightly later after his class, about 2:30. Poor kid, And then there are also other times, where I would eat intermittently. This is not a very good habit, Okay, I must say first. In front of my laptop, video off, and muted over Zoom. When I'm on duty and I'm in work, and then the rest of my family members are left to eat on their own. Who's like, oh, poor me, kind of moments, But there are occasions where really the divide is not necessary. Due to my work culture that is working in the youth department, I could integrate my work with family life. Oh, this is where the best part is. So, when I need counsel from my teens about the issues of Gen Zers, I could take time to sit, chat, and get their insights. They are my great resource. So these are moments where, we could open up conversations and further deepening relationships in the family. That is the time where we have this win-win situation. But working with focus on the family.
Your kids become your test subjects, things to bounce, ideas to bounce off, and it becomes a intellectual conversation sometimes.
Sometimes, yes.
So I'm seeing some of the comments, about the challenges, that other parents are facing. For example, Kathy, is talking about, the difference between the first MCO and the second one, and sometimes, for some people, perhaps, second time round, you kind of get tired and, the tired with the challenges that you're facing, and so maybe the will to fight, or the motivation to push on, to press on, becomes lacking. And so talking about how mental health is a very important thing to look into as well, and we totally agree. And I'm sure we definitely have some talks coming up, on that area, And so, yeah, just being able to have the motivation, to continue being there for our children, being there for our work, really can be a challenge. Then Ashton was saying, talking about exercising, because now that everybody's locked at home, the stationary exercise becomes, really dull. You can't go out and play your tennis or, go out for your jogs. And I think that struggles, then you
Got
become
Nintendo Switch.
yeah,
You can play your
yeah,
tennis.
yeah. So I think yeah, so yeah, we got all these challenges as well, and yeah, so we do acknowledge it, and I believe, I think even in the most difficult of times, a family can thrive. I think not just survive during a pandemic. I think that's what Focus on the Family has always been talking about, even before pandemic. When we look at the family unit, we always say, can family don't just have to get by to survive. Families can really thrive if we become intentional, in how we want to help our families to thrive. And I think with these difficult times, definitely we still want to see our families thriving, and we can, I believe, with a little bit of effort, with a little bit of intentionality, and with a little bit of creativity as well, I believe we can really find the good, in a really bad situation. And so that's what we want to talk about here today. And so as we work towards this new norm with work and with family life, and some of you have brought up about just having a good mental health state. Let us consider these 6 R's, right? That could create a more successful and hopefully a less stressful environment for everybody at home, right? So Agnes, can you share with us your thoughts and experiences with these 6 R's that we're going to go through right now?
Sure, Joshua. Yeah, so the first R is ritual. Now, let me just give you a very brief understanding of what ritual is. So I'm wearing this cheongsam, right? It's a ritual, and the ritual of a family tradition, right? So it is, I would define it as a series of carefully selected and meaningful actions with the presence of mind. So let's consider getting ready for a work day. So what would be your regular ritual? Yeah, change into work clothes, have your breaky with a cup of coffee, and then commute to work with your car or maybe public transport. So as you work from home, try to keep these rituals as closely as possible. For instance, change the clothing that's slightly more like your usual workwear. So this activity shifts the presence of your mind into the work mode. Here's a pro tip, okay? Wearing pajamas won't help you feel productive. So bear that in mind. Okay, just don't wear pajamas when you go to work. I go to the meeting. Okay, even though you don't show face. Okay, so it's like that feel of like the mental shift. Okay, so for me personally, this mental shift into work mode happens after breakfast with my husband. So when we look at the clock, it hits 9 a.m. So I say, wow, okay, time to chat less. So we commute from the kitchen to the living room, which is also our working space, very quickly. So some of you, might already have this ritual. So, maybe consider it, think about it. Have you already been doing it? If you already been doing it, continue to do it. And it is really great. And the second R is routine. If you already have it, continue to do it. That's great. But if you have not established one, I encourage you to really start now. Okay, this is where routine is where you plan a schedule that you would have time for work, breaks, and meals. Even our kids, even they would also benefit from having such a routine where it becomes almost automatic and regular in a day's work. Again, well, it depends on the age of your children, right? So for instance, for older children, plan the day with them, the day schedule with them until they become independent. And let them know that as they have a set of school tasks to finish, daddy and mommy also have work tasks to finish, okay, and to complete. So everyone have to work together as a family to get our work done. Now I understand from my sister-in-law that the lower primary students have their teacher to student time in the online PDPR program, which is, I believe, is from 9 to 11:30 a.m. And then after that, they're given assignments to complete on their own. So here's where, perhaps you can help them to schedule what's next after the online classes. snack time maybe. So snack time is like a, the little recess time that's very similar to the regular school routine. And also I think we also need to understand that they experience screen fatigue like we do. Although there's hours is shorter, but sometimes they could move from that laptop into their own devices, the mobile. So we want to help them find a healthy balance, of screen time, making a planner, which include physical exercises. Yeah, one of you mentioned about exercising at home. I mean, doing together with your child is excellent, that I mentioned making planners for physical exercises, naps, hobbies, and family playtime. And also, right, not just we want to plan with our kids, we want to have them to have ownership over this schedule. So help them to increase it, right? I mean, we could have them to write or to even decorate it. And the best part is this: celebrate their progress. It is the progress that matters, right, Joshua? Yeah.
That's right,
Yeah. So how about toddlers? And we're thinking, hey, toddlers, how to do this? Hey, we have a tip for you here as well. Okay. So what you could do is that print out visual cue cards. Yeah, it could be a great way to communicate schedules. So you print out photos of what you want their day to be. For instance, right? Okay, this is now playtime. So stick the playtime photo on the wall. Set the timer. So this is a routine, plan it out. So when the timer rings, just remove that playtime photo and stick the next activity. Reading. Oh, come, it's reading time. No, mom will do that with you. Then set the timer again. Do the same for sleeping and eating. And then when the child has completed it with you, say, woo, great job, you have to make it big, like a big deal out of it that, your toddler has done it. So it's exciting to do that, right? So, okay, how about if your children are young, infants, I remember those days. I mean, Benny introduced like a 4 kids, so I remember those days. Okay, so how to plan the schedule, right? Yeah, so I plan my schedule around their routine. So say naps, meals, playtimes, and baths, which means what? I got to start working earlier before they wake up, taking breaks during the moment they need me most, and then returning to work after they have gone to bed. I mean, Joshua, those moments I wish I got more than 24 hours a day. But no lah.
Don't we all? Don't we all?
So, we have to recognize there's no perfect routine. So let's just take time, be gracious to yourself, to experiment with different approaches before settling into a rhythm. So that rhythm is really significant and important, right?
Yeah.
That will keep your family to help your family thrive. So having said that, manage your expectation, be flexible. Like I said again, enjoy the process. So so to sum up, routines and rituals bring sense of certainty and belonging. And these 2 R's are really essentials to confront our challenges and just move on with a greater, measure of confidence. Right? Joshua, let me ask you this.
Yep.
Personally, right? Can you get productive work done when you prop up in the bed?
Of course not.
I think we have, I don't know, I did probably pass the time of my teens, but my teens can, I don't know how, but anyway, that's another story. Okay, so we have talked about the first R, ritual, second R, routine. The third one, room. Okay, just as I am here, I've set up my space here to be a well-lit workspace, where I could sit well and have good posture, minimal distraction. So try to avoid places like, where it's near to you, the bedroom or the kitchen. So because my husband and my workspaces we're all in the living room, right? So, but we have our personal corners. So you know what, my teenagers are very curious about the work I do. So they sneak peek at my screen and so what they see my notes. So all right, so to save unnecessary embarrassment and shocks to my bosses, so I just make sure I have a virtual background. So this is a tip. Make sure you have virtual backgrounds. Okay, so talking about rooms, right? Our third R. So if your parents have younger children, where you may need to work near your children, so keep an eye on them, where they play or they nap, or perhaps put them in the playpen, and think of how to child-proof your home better at this point of time. Okay, so you wouldn't want to have any untoward accidents while you care for them. For parents of older kids like my teens, so they have their own separate room, their own room for their, when they attend the classes as well. So even myself, the living room, yes, we able to minimize distraction that way. Okay, so yeah, for home-based learning for our kids, right? So perhaps separate the space for online classes and homework, and for playing or rest. So you kind of like, that, this is time to play. You play this area, and this is their place where you have your table set up, you have your stationaries, and you have your bag perhaps, and ready for your homework and your work, right? So you know what, as we consistently utilize these designated places every day, what we are doing is that we're drawing boundaries for our kids, and they will understand that is, this is daddy's or mommy's workroom, and this is where I sit for school time, right? So yeah, so I've covered the 3 R's, and yeah, so let's celebrate for whatever we could achieve and we could do. Yeah, maybe Joshua can share with us the next 3 R's.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Agnes. I think that's very helpful. Of course, Viola, was talking about how she has so many. I mean, I hope it covers, the struggle that Viola has, no, about having to do a lot of calls, Zoom calls, and all that. And she's got a 19-month-old daughter, who don't want to leave her alone. Every time she's at the desk, she's crying. So I hope all these little things that we have around can really help, to manage, the boundaries, and especially with younger kids and toddlers. I think that's very important. Like you say, just basically work around their schedule or sleeping and things like that. Then you can actually find to get some work done, waking up a little bit earlier. So not necessarily the 9 to 5, but really having to work around the young child's sleeping time and feeding time and all that. And so the fourth R that I have, Agnes, is basically it's called restraint. And I think this has to do with self-discipline. And I think this is really the key for those who want to work well from home. And like you say, the routine of, I think, planning out our schedule and sticking to it, to concentrate on our goals for the day is very, very important. I mean, that means, right, once you have a schedule, you stick to it, you concentrate on it. That means, no not doing houseworks. We are so tempted, right, when we see the laundry at the side there. We say, maybe I can multitask. And actually that, sometimes, can be a distraction. Then of course, sometimes we need to go out to get stuff. Try to not do too much of that, to cut down, the distraction. Then when we practice self-discipline, right, this whole restraint, as we say, what we are trying to do, or rather what we are doing as well, is really to set an example for our children and how to set limits from themselves, and I think it's important for parents to explain to their kids, like you say, right, this is daddy, mommy's workplace, this is a time to do homework, and you need to focus, not to be interrupted. And unless there's an emergency, for example, we tell our children, right, don't, like right now I'm doing a Facebook Live, I tell my kids, don't come in the room, unless there is an emergency. I think that's important. And we find that, we can give, quotas, of how many times they can interrupt, ask us for certain things. I think all these are very important. And so we basically want to, I think some of you were writing about, this whole area of screen time as well, having the, going online, everything is online classes. How do you help your teenagers, to not, keep looking at their phones, and be distracted, while they are online classes. And I think restraint is very important. So telling them that, while you're doing class, your phone should be, not used unless, the teacher asks you to. So all these are, I think, very important things that we need to do. Then, of course, the fifth R is rest. And I think we really need to, like you say, I think you brought up earlier, Agnes, this whole idea of screen fatigue. And this is very, very real. And we throughout the day, we need to take regular breaks, and stick to them. I think sometimes when we begin to work out our schedule, we can really stick to those times that we need to take our breaks. And during those break time, engage and be present, with our children, to talk to them and things like that. And of course, at the end of the break, remind ourselves, that we need to go back to work, and we will join them again at our next break. And I think these are very important areas. And I think for children, right, who are old enough, they can work independently, they can probably usually concentrate just like any one of us, right? Probably, the most at the interval of 30 to 45 minutes. And that's where we can, take a short break after that. And we can, like you said earlier, we can use a timer to see where they can take the break. And of course, give them permission to have more active indoor activities to release their energy that is built up, from sitting the entire day. And most importantly, remember that we ourselves, okay, also need to get away from our desks, get away from our computer from time to time, and take good breaks so that we can be productive. I tell you, it will do wonders, when we take short breaks for our
I
productivity.
agree. I was having frozen shoulders for that weekend.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah. So we really need to remind ourselves. Maybe we should put a timer for ourselves as well.
You're right.
To make sure that we are standing up, Or, I mean, sometimes when the meeting is long, to do all these little short breaks, right? Then of course the 6R is basically reward. And remember that this arrangement, obviously we have gone through our first lockdown, but again, this is something that is so new and everybody is experiencing this at the same time, So be intentional in affirming our children, and especially when they put in the effort, to really stick to schedule and try to limit their time on the screen. I think we really need to, I think that's a parenting principle that we always say, let's catch our children doing good. We are always there to catch them when they're doing something naughty or bad. But let's be intentional to catch them doing good. And when we do that, right, I tell you, it will really encourage their heart. And I think encouragement is so important. And of course, older children will understand, the principle of delayed gratification. That's like, for example, you finish your homework, before you play games, or you don't get your phone until you have completed your assignment. And so there is, the reward that comes. The reward becomes the positive reinforcement to say, okay, let's stick to this schedule. Let's delay the gratification first, and finish out all that we need to do before we start enjoying a movie or, play the games that you want to play. And this, I think, will really be enforcing, positive behavior. So the reward system is important for age appropriateness as well. Just for example, like if they're younger, you can use little stickers on the board that says, when you have completed, all your assignments, you get a little stars, and at the end of collecting all this reward, maybe you can go buy bubble tea, or a fast food meal together, and that's what I've been trying to do as well. When I see my two daughters, they're teenagers now, when they're putting a lot of effort, even though, we have said, bubble tea once a month only, okay, because it's not very healthy. But seeing how much they are doing, and how stressed they can become sometimes, sometimes I bend the rule a bit. I say, okay, this month, twice bubble tea, just to affirm them and reward them, right? So I think that's really important. And so I guess as we look at it, right, as we work through these aspects of ritual, of room, having, the 6 R's, the ritual, the room, the routine, the restraint, the rest, and the reward, may we also discover the joy in connecting with our children in new ways. And I think that's really the heart of it, of how when we come together, like you say, Agnes, right, that one of your greatest experience is really be able to build a closer connection with your family.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely. So when you talk about building closer relationship, and we also, in other words, we talk about connecting with them on a personal level, right? So I mean, I really love it when you say, affirming our children by rewarding them after a job well done. It definitely make the time at home fun. Now, maybe you could tell us how else can we make time together fun and meaningful?
Yeah, I think we are also looking at the whole aspect, right, of the home-based learning. I think a lot of us are really struggling to. I think some of us have seen, different cartoons and memes, right, where you have the child sitting in front, of the screen with the teacher on the other end of the line, and then the parents with the cane, having to sit beside them to make sure they are paying attention. And so, home-based learning, can for some of the kids, can be such a dry and can be such a dry process and not enjoyable at all. And I think we really need to find ways, right, where we can make the learning at home fun. Obviously, we've got the assignment that's given by the school and through online classes, all these things. I think it will help us as parents, right, to really understand, like we mentioned earlier, right, especially with routines, getting the child to maybe think through what are the things they need to prepare. It's just like going to school, right? Before you go to school, you make sure that your bags are packed with all the classes that you need to go to for the day. So you pack the right books. And I think we can do that in a home-based setting as well, where we are preparing all the things that they need to be ready for, instead of like getting online, then after that worry about going to the room and hunting for the paper or the worksheet that they have forgotten. So preparing beforehand is very important. But I think besides this, right, I think we also need to find ways. One of my colleagues reminded me, right, that I think as parents, right, we need to also realize, right, that learning is not just about academic alone. And so we can find creative ways to really make home-based learning a fun part of their experience as well. And also not forgetting there are other soft skills that they can learn when they're at home as well, like self-discipline, like the restraint we're talking about, like learning how to regulate, their emotions, which we will talk about afterwards, and doing chores and cooking and being part of the process of preparing dinner, for example. And I think all these things are important soft skills that we must remember is also part of learning as well. And connecting with our children is very important. So I always also, another parenting principles that I think is very important is, I say, before we correct, we need to connect with our child. So whenever we're trying to see something that's not really right, and we're trying to help them adjust, to have a right outcome or right behavior, we need to connect with them first before we can connect. And I think one of the things that we can do, especially right now with working from home, with home-based learning and all, is to create meaningful conversation, just every day, making sure, even though we are all at home at the same time, but just making sure we have meaningful conversation, especially during those short break times, like coming and asking the question like, hey, what are the fun things you want to play today, or I really appreciate, the way you've been so attentive, during your class. I know this is a very difficult class, and things like what makes you happy, and I think this is included in your e-resources, and to just, we call this conversational starters, and things that you can actually engage your children, just to basically have meaningful connection and meaningful conversation together. And of course, the other thing that is part of the e-resource that you're going to receive at the end of this talk tonight is Focus on the Family. Malaysia has this, what they call the 15 minutes to love challenge. And this is basically another exciting way to create fun environment at home. And parents who sign on to this challenge will actually receive creative bonding activities accompanied with connecting conversation or question to connect with your child up close and personal, right? And each activity,
age appropriate, Joshua.
Age appropriate, as well.
It's excellent.
Yeah. So, and each activity, right, only takes 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But obviously you can have more fun and extend the time. And I think the key to this, right, is because, one of our founder, has this phrase that he always says, that kids spell LOV, kids spell love as time, TIME. We need to spend that time with our children, in meaningful games, in meaningful connection, so that, you will really motivate them, to do well on the home-based learning, because they got something to look forward to at the end of their efforts, for the day of attending class. All right. So just a quick reminder again, before we move on to our next segment, a final reminder to send your question. We try to answer as many as possible, and go ahead and type your question at the comment box, and our admin will pick them up to send to us later on for us to answer those questions. All right. So the last portion, Agnes, is really talking about processing emotion. So even though we are going through this second time, I think it's still important for us, I think still as important as ever, to help our children process their emotions, right? About not being able to go to school, about right now, I think the really big thing is not even being able to go and visit, their our relatives for Chinese New Year. Not even able to
Yeah.
have, reunion dinner,
I know.
So I mean, all of us are feeling it. I think we need to learn to process the emotion ourselves. But
Right.
as parents, right, how can we help our children in this area? How can we help them process what is going on with them right now?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. There's such a great need to address this. What we often see is just the tip of the iceberg, right? I can really feel for my teens, yeah, when they are physically isolated for their friends for a long period. But yeah, you may think that no, there is social media at their fingertips, but they do still feel disconnected and lonely, according to the studies, into many studies, if you read about them among the young people. So it's very critical that we do an emotional health check in for ourselves and our family members at least once a week. So here are the 3 key points, yeah? So ask the child, number 1, ask your child what makes him or her angry, excited or sad. Maybe we do this at the end of the day when everyone is like off their work already, time maybe on bedtime or even after their classes, right? More relaxed moment that we could gather and just check with your child. And number 2 is to share. Now, when we ask our child, when we communicate, right, it's 2 ways. So we also want to share about what makes mommy or daddy sad, angry, or the emotions for the day. So, as parents, we are really not called to be perfect, but be genuine, right, with our feelings and thoughts. So when we share our struggles and fears, of course, it's with the age-appropriate language. And I believe that in this way, they know that they too, can come to us and approach us, respecting that there is mutual trust and safe space for one another. And lastly, do an activity with your child. So an activity that can help them to express or address the emotions. Some of them are perhaps like to journal, or draw, or even acting it out. I think I like the idea of journaling, where if you could share a journal with your child. So it's like between me and my son. So I would write my day, or my highlights for the day, or something that has not been good to me with me, myself. I'll write it down and then I will pass it to my child, and my child will write his or her journal. And then we're like, there's this exchange of thoughts and feelings. And then I think it's really healthy to do that. And you even can consider using emojis if your child has a mobile, So similarly with the teens, we might have to give them a bit of space to process. And I find that those small pockets of chats, it's just a good way to stay connected. Well, Joshua, how about you? I mean, how does it look like for you and your children?
Well, I mean, I totally agree, right? I mean, this, I guess, when we talk about, I like the idea of the journal that you share as a family. And I just totally love those things because those things are really precious, Obviously, there may not be input every day, but can you just imagine, right, if the family members, just put their thoughts in that family journal. And I tell you, I'll be excited to want to read that. If not every day, at least, once a week, just to catch up on all those things that are being written.
You're right.
And I think for younger children, right, obviously, they might not have the phone to just, express their feelings through emojis. You can actually use like, little cardboard where you can actually use different color stickers, to represent how they are feeling for the day. And so when you see the different colors for the day, right, then that's where you can actually be a conversational starter, or rather to really know right on the onset, right, whether they're having a good day or a bad day, and you can actually move into asking them about it. Then of course the other thing that I think is also very interesting is that I think this day and age, right, when it comes to using emojis, right, of course I find it a little bit childish, but I realized, right, that's kind of like a connector with my daughters these days. Instead of like I used to type, like long, messages, just to and then they're like, oh, and then my daughters were like, okay, boomer, okay, and because their message is always like, short and
Yeah.
like so many things. I always say, why can't you just combine everything and put it in one chat, instead of just sending it multiple. But I realized the power of emojis, especially my daughters, right? That's kind of like them telling me how they are feeling. And of course now I've uploaded all these emojis on my phone, to also be able to go back and forth with them, and that's been really special because obviously through all the emojis, right, we are able to like talk to one another and just check in with one another. And when the days we don't check in, I'll be teasing her. I say, hey, why you blue tick me today? You never answer me. and so the conversation comes back again and back and forth. And I think one of the things that I feel when it comes to processing emotion, right, is for us as parents to really try to put ourselves in their position. And I remembered that there was a period of time where one of my daughters, right, was just going through a really bad time, with everything that's going on, like with having to deal with different ways of learning, to lockdown, to all these things. She was really, every day she'll just be going through this emotional up and down, and she'll be moping around the whole day, and that brings the entire family down. And I remember getting really upset at the beginning, and I would like always raise my voice and tell her, why are you trying to bring everybody down, where everybody is trying to just chip in to be positive and all. Then I realized, right, what I was actually doing was I was mirroring her emotion. I'm getting upset because she's upset. And I think for us as parents, right, we cannot do that. So instead, right, what I did with her in particular is, instead of mirroring her emotions, right, I give her space and I say, okay, I think you're not really wanting to talk right now. I'm just going to leave it to you, and I'll just come back to you later. When you feel like talking, you can come and see me afterwards. And obviously, because my two daughters are teenagers, right, their talking time is when I want to sleep. But
I know.
But
the eyes will be like,
right?
I'll be like, oh, please, not now.
and there are some days, when I can, I'll just afford them the time and just listen to them in the darkness, just hearing them, and talking and sharing their emotions. And I appreciate those times, and I feel that has really helped in terms of connecting with my child and giving them this safe space to express their emotions. And I've also done another thing which I thought was really helpful, is that when I tell my daughters, okay, when things become really, really bad, and you don't have the words or the emotional vocabulary, to let me know what's going on, you just give me a keyword. Okay, when you say the keyword, then I'll know. I'll just back away and give you some time to process before I come back to you again, and we'll talk about it. And so I asked her to choose a keyword, and she was thinking through, and she says, okay, Papa, my keyword is nuggets. and so I said, okay, fine. Yeah. So I say, how can I tell when you really need nuggets, or you're really using your keywords to tell me that you need some time away? So we've been working through that. Yeah, and I think these are all important ways to help our children process emotions. And so, yeah, so we hope that these pointers have given you some thoughts in helping you to make your homestay, staying at home, a really successful one, with working from home and helping your children with their own home-based learning. Yeah. So right now, I think we're going to look into some of the questions, Agnes. So I'm going to read out some of the questions and see whether we can take some of these questions to help our parents answer some of these questions. So we're going to spend the next few moments to answer some of these questions. And the first one is actually from Kathy Lim. And she said that my teenage boys wants bonus hours for online game after he finished his homework. However, he just do it for the reward. All right. So is this the correct way? All right. So Agnes, you want to start first? Then I'll obviously give my input as well. What do you think? How do you differentiate between genuinely finishing homework, in a right way, instead of rushing through just to get the bonus hours on game time?
I do struggle, honestly, right? When my teens, when they are in their teenage years, and I realize that it's really not telling how many hours you can or you cannot, but rather negotiating the time. And I find that it's quite useful to do that. I mean, in other words, we sit down and talk about it, say, hey, okay, we have to agree on that. This is the timing that you're going to do and you're going to use. I mean, yes, we recognize that, you gain playtime by finishing your homework quickly. That's one, negotiating. And I think secondly, also I will look into how are they performing in school generally. I mean, even when we study from home, they still have their mini tests. Yeah. And I find that is I think the teachers are actually more connecting with the parents. For me, at least, they're more connecting with us. And I get to know what is not just how he's performing academically, but as well in his character as well. Yeah. So
Yeah. I think so. I think you brought up a very important word. It's called negotiation. I think with teenage children, right, that's where we I mean, not everything has to be like, cast in stone, when we have put out, a rule or a requirement, before they can use their play time, for example. I think the process, is that balance, right? I totally agree with you, Agnes. I struggle a great deal with my teenage daughters as well when it comes to those time. And so it's really about negotiation. And I always use the V of love, meaning that, as they grow older, we give them more choices, when it comes to choosing the things that they want. But with choices comes responsibility, right? And like Spider-Man,
Spider-Man,
with
yeah, right.
power. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
always tell them, no, you have more choices, but it means you have more responsibility as well. So it's really a negotiation many of the times. Don't be too hard where you have to just okay, no more time, this is the time, means this time. But we also need to really find ways where we can negotiate to come up with a solution. And so again, remembering, I think Min brought up a very important point. It says, rules without relationship, that's where it will result in rebellion. So whatever rule we set in place, right, there's always, the negotiation part really is that, trying to build that relationship and coming to a solution is important. All right, so next question is by Julie. It says, since kids are on the devices for online learning and have greater access to internet, are there any tips to stay safe online for the kids? And how can parents set healthy boundaries for them? All right, I think this is again related to basically online learning as well. I think there are many filters and those softwares that you can already put in place in your devices, so that you can kind of monitor what's happening. And I think these days, right, I think with the iOS system, even the Android system, right, I think they are coming out with a lot of things, like, for example, the amount of time that you can spend, on a certain device. There is a lock time, there is, a downtime. And so I think this is where, again, with younger children, right, you just go ahead and set those things in place, meaning that, the phone will not be functioning, from 9 at night, maybe to, the morning 6 o'clock, for example, just in case you fall asleep, and the child goes and use the devices. So you can use those downtime that is available in iOS system, in Android system, to make those to have those boundaries where the phone can be have downtime. And I think the other thing is that really obviously when they grow older, again, it's a negotiation with the teens, telling them that your sleep is important. Therefore, I need to have this lock time in place. And it's not easy. I tell you, it's not easy because, but the things that I started very early, right before they have their own devices, I've already set this in place, as a negotiation. And obviously, the contract of all these boundaries, is continuously being negotiated and talked about. And so I think that's important. Yeah. So do you have any other tips, when it comes to safety and access for online, Agnes?
Well, probably in terms of mutual trust, they know my password. I know all their passwords. So I'm not intentionally wanting to check what they do, but if there's something that I feel uncomfortable, and I'm looking at behavioral, moments and how they are developing overall and all, if I feel that there's a need to check, yeah, this is open time of talking and just look into each other's phone. I mean, they check my phone too, and I check their phones as well. So at least we know where we are, and are we using the phone in a healthy manner? Are we abusing it? Yeah. So we will know. Yeah. From there, I think knowing each other's passwords. Yeah.
Well, this is a really a family of accountability.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
right?
I remember
Mm.
checking my children's screen time, how much screen time they spend on their phone. Then after that, they'll look at me, Papa, I want to see yours as well. How much time you spend on your phone? All right.
Right.
So yes, I think accountability is very important.
Mm.
So we're coming on to our third question by Lim. And he says, some of our children seems to enjoy, the whole MCO, being back at home, while some kids, they find it hard to cope. So how can parents better identify the warning signs of stress in kids, and how can we help them instead of ignoring it, taking the signs lightly or missing the signs altogether, right?
Right.
Agnes, you have any thoughts on this? And I'll
Right.
share some of my thoughts as well.
Sure. I think this brings us back to about the regular check-ins, right? Yeah, checking in the signs and just asking and then sharing your thoughts and doing activities together and see how do they process those emotions. Let's say, for example, one of my sons actually is staying by himself in Cyberjaya. He attends the university there, but because it's of lockdown, many of in fact, all of his friends who are from outstation are no longer with him in the same, apartment. So they all have returned to their home. So can you imagine? You are literally, on your own the whole time. Yes, he has that space and the quietness, but then I feel that enduring it alone is really it's really it's quite lonely. So what I'll do is that I do regularly just check in with him. Hey, how are you doing? What are you cooking today? How do you like your food? Simple words, simple things that is like that every day. If they have, I think it's easier for us to pick up the red flags if we have regular conversations with them, and I think that is really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the checking in, on a regular basis, I mean, if not every day, on a regular basis, really is important, because if not, we're going to miss, the cues, the cues, the emotional cues that they are exhibiting. And I have, seen that with my own daughter as well. I've got a daughter who's a little bit more sensitive, she goes through emotional roller coaster. And so when there was a time, I remember very clearly, one time she came back and she was, just having that one of her episodes. And I thought it was just like, one of her episodes, but I realized that there was something different. It was, she was more down than her normal self, and I realized, okay, there's something different in terms of her moodiness today. And so I managed to pick up on it, and thank God for it. I managed to pick up on that, and I totally just changed my tone. Instead of like, hey, come on, let's get going, go do all the things you need to do, before we go for dinner or things like that. And I managed to pick it up, and again, as you say, because we were so we connect on a regular basis, so I could tell the difference. And then I realized that she was actually struggling with something. She has locked herself out her phone and she couldn't get in, and she's going to lose all her data. And I realized that, wow, I mean, again, to me, it was a small thing, but instead of like, don't worry lah, the pictures can always take, data can always, can you imagine, she said, she basically told me, I'm losing a part of myself. And when she told me that, I realized, okay, yeah, it's true, because, there are certain things that are very precious in the phone, and she's about to lose it. And that's why she's extra emotional, and I managed to pick out on that, and just to just let her express her feelings, and just try not to put her down on her feelings. And I think that's important. And so
no,
again,
Joshua, we always like to do that. I can fix it for you. I know what to do.
Can always start again, can always take new pictures. We're always trying to find solutions. But sometimes I think what they really need is just for us to just be there, shoulder to cry on, just be quiet with them, and sometimes even cry with them, and because they're really going through a hard time, and we are sad as parents that they have to bear this burden on their own, and just being there, and sharing a tear or two with them, I think sometimes speaks volume than anything you can say or any solution you can give them. Yeah. So yeah, and I have this last question I think I really have to answer, because it's out of the content that we're talking about here today. And the last question is, it says here, no, what are the ways to date your spouse while everyone, including children, are home all day? Agnes,
Oh my,
how do you do it?
that is a very good question. Remember, I said earlier in our talk that we get to celebrate our wedding anniversary, right?
Yeah.
We actually have them seated together with us. We set up the table. We had our candles, lay out the tablecloth, and actually cook proper meals, and serve properly, like not really fine dining lah, but it's just out of the ordinary, right? But we make it extraordinary by intentionally saying to the kids like, hey, this is how dad and mom celebrate our wedding, the anniversary, which we have not been consistently doing all this time, but it's showing them that's how it can be done, and we celebrate love together with them. So yeah, that's what's that. I mean, we don't do that every day, right? So that's once a year. But I think the other thing that we could also do is to actually take time out with your spouse. Like you say, this is a time for mom and dad. Just like as I take time out with you, if I'm telling my son, it's just like we treating this time to be sacred, and in the same way, I want it to be a sacred time with dad, and it's so great, to be just with each other and just chatting and just catching up and just making time for one another. So yeah, I think we are really modeling it. It's a great question. Well, thanks for just asking this question. Is great.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. The celebration can just be together with the children, but then we also need that the alone time to catch up and things like that. And that's where we can always tell the children, okay, now you guys are babysitter, we don't have any other babysitting the kid, the younger siblings, give us at least half an hour. And this is our papa and mommy's time, and we can do that. I mean, we just need to communicate that. And I totally agree with you about this whole idea of modeling, right? Modeling love for one another. And so I don't think we have to be ashamed of that, to show love to our spouse. And on that note, I think it's also very important for us to check in with one another as husband and wife, for us to be able to be on the same page, when it comes to setting the routine, setting the rules, setting the boundaries. I think husband and wife need to be on the same page, and we cannot be on the same page when we are so busy, just trying to get everything right. And so we also need that to take that time away, just to I mean, even for us, maybe doing our grocery run, for example, we can have two people in the car, right? So husband and wife, just go do that, and be able to talk things out, and again, as you say, the intentional with the designated time with our spouse really is very important. All right, so thank you so much, Agnes. I just really enjoyed the time talking to you, and being able to share our thoughts when it comes to this whole new experience that we're going through, of having to go through MCO again for the second time, and now with the extension. And I hope that these little tips, really help us to persevere on, to thrive as a family. And thank you so much, all of you, for just tuning in, and we appreciate your time with us, and we hope that you've been encouraged and blessed by just spending this time with us. Yeah. So thank you so much, Agnes.
Thank you.
And Benny, back to you
thank
right
you
now,
so
Benny.
much, Josh and Agnes, for sharing such practical tips, and also sharing so personally from your own family experiences, even giving some bonus marriage and dating tips. Thank you. And we hope you all have enjoyed tonight's session. And please do let us know through reaction buttons, or please comment below. Maybe what is one thing you learned tonight? We'd love for you to share your learnings with all of us. Well, I have some important announcements, so I hope you just give me just a couple of minutes. Yeah, as mentioned earlier, the Stay at Home 2.0 digital resource is now available for download. You know, the 6 R's to navigate the MCO period, tips to make home-based learning fun, the activities check in emotionally with children, like, you know, listen out to them say nuggets. Anyway, click on the link on the screen or in the comment box, and you will receive a guide that comes with all these helpful tips Josh and Agnes have shared with us tonight. It's free, so please pass it along to other parents too. You know, with all the changes that is happening and the need to adapt quickly, our children may be feeling overwhelmed, as you have heard. It's been reported in Malaysia that as many as 424,000 children struggling with mental health issues, according to the National Health and Morbidity Survey in 2019. So this year, 2021, we want to really lean in to support all you parents and our children. And there are two upcoming events: Understanding Your Teen's Mental Health, that's on 30th March on Facebook Live, a Facebook Live event, and Raising Resilient Children. This is a Zoom workshop happening on 29th April. So 30th March and 29th April, just note that down. So if you'd like to receive more updates on these events, just please subscribe to us by clicking the link in the comment box. Just a second. Just one final minute. I think this is a really special book that I like to mention, Thriving, Not Just Surviving. This book was just released, and it's filled with stories of everyday Malaysian families and how they are thriving and doing their best to stay strong. So these stories, I think, will greatly encourage you. It's a coffee table book just for your family to keep your heads up during these times. In fact, a donor has generously financed the production of this book. So all proceeds from the sale of this book will go towards focus on the family's efforts to strengthen families. So please purchase one today at 50 ringgit, and this will support our ongoing work. The link is also in the chat box. Next is Intentional Fathering, another just newly released book by our founder, Lee Wee Min. It contains his personal journey and really practical ways dads can be more intentional in their roles. So I can't think of a better book for dads out there. Again, the production of this book also has been sponsored, so proceeds from this book goes to support Focus on the Family's work. Finally, we want to let you know that some family life issues are more complex, and sometimes it seems almost impossible to solve. This is why we have a team of professionally trained counselors. They are ready to offer you support and a listening ear. So please reach out to us at family.org.my/gethelp and leave us your contact details. Our team will get in touch with you. Finally, this live stream will be made available on our Facebook page. So if you have benefited from this session, please share this with your family and friends. And yeah, we hope to see you again. So that's all from us tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we hope this past hour has been helpful to you. So from all of us at Focus on the Family Malaysia, thank you and good night.